Hey fam, I'm going to make a video talking about the inaction of the clerks, the deputy clerks, the chief clerks, whatever you want to call them, in both Circuit Court and Oliver Hill Juvenile Domestic Relations Court in reference to my family court case. So repeatedly, I have asked them to file paperwork. They've obstructed that process. This has, been something that took place years ago. And at a certain point in time, because of the ongoing obstruction of justice and fraud, I just stopped participating completely. But I wanted to mention that there were numerous times where I went into the clerk's office and I asked them to file paperwork. They attempted to obstruct that process. And then when I provided them the documentation that stated as a public servant, if they impeded my ability to file paperwork during these proceedings, then they were engaging in a violation of the law, and they were subject to a $2,000 penalty per incident of them failing to do their duty as a public servant. So after going over that with them, all of a sudden they were willing to file the paperwork. And then there were instances where, I believe in an effort to cheat the record of its proper content, they would do things like only wanting to stamp the first page and the last page of the documentation, but not wanting to stamp each and every page I gave them. So something I implemented was a demand that they stamp every single page, initial every single page that I gave them, so that they could not come back later, and then, obviously provide me a copy of it, so that they could not come back later and try to claim that they didn't have the documentation as plausible deniability of what I was trying to have put on the record. Now, I did on numerous occasions attempt to get things put on the record. I brought copies of things to be put on the record, and in proceedings that was obstructed by the presiding judge or judges. So it left me with no alternative other than to go into the clerk's office and to have the clerks stamp it into the record. And then I would also ask that they upload it to the electronic file, or demand that they upload it into the electronic file, which I discovered was also something they were not doing. So I just wanted to mention this because you can't possibly have a legitimate adjudication of matters when not all of the information is making its way into the electronic file. So that's the first thing. Also, I want to mention the fact that on numerous occasions, I contacted them to let them know about things that were not being addressed. And I could not seem to get a straight answer from them as to why that was occurring. But I speculate it's because it was going against the predetermined narrative that they had constructed, and any information I tried to get adjudicated that would call into question the predetermined narrative that they had already constructed and the ramifications of that financially, they didn't want to address it, because from an ego standpoint, what judge wants to go back through the records and acknowledge that, maybe they made a wrong decision? I think it's an ego matter. It's a narcissism matter more than anything. And that's unfortunate that we don't have public servants that can actually go back and acknowledge mistakes that they've made. I don't know that anyone should be in a position of judicial authority that lacks the humility to be able to acknowledge when they've made improper adjudications. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this today because I have suffered greatly at the hands of ongoing fraud upon the court, judicial misconduct, misappropriation of funds, all sorts of things. And I lost my family in that process. There are people that don't want me to talk about this publicly because, for whatever reason, they don't want this information getting out to the public. The psychological harm that has been inflicted upon me should be public knowledge, and these people should be publicly shamed for what they did. I do not feel bad about publicly calling them out for the harm that they caused me, because I have tried to give them plenty of opportunity to handle this privately, and they've refused to do that, and they've continued to inflict harm upon me. At a certain point in time, you have to stand up for yourself and you have to fight back. It becomes necessary for your own survival. And, at this point, it's just a matter of, I'm not willing to take it anymore. I'm not willing to remain quiet Abusers thrive on you staying quiet about what they're doing to hurt you. They thrive on you not calling them out publicly for what they've done to harm you. I think it's probably best that when something like that is being done, that you name names, that you call them out, and that you basically put them on notice that you're not going to remain silent about what they've done. Because if you stay silent, you're enabling them to harm other people. You cannot be neutral in these situations. When judges hear about situations happening that are harming children, and the evidence is just put right in front of their face, and they don't address it then and there, as far as I'm concerned, they should not be able to continue to preside over any judicial proceedings. There were numerous instances in different proceedings in my case where it was made abundantly clear to the presiding judges that there was a lack of credibility going on because of data discrepancy, that there were statements made that definitely called into question the safety of the children involved, and yet nothing was done by these presiding judges to ensure the safety of the children involved. I don't know what the reasoning for that would be, other than there being a focus on generating revenue, irrespective of the ramifications that had on the children. So I wanted to mention that because I am extremely concerned with the impact that all of these improper decisions have had on the children involved in this case. I'm trying to respect their privacy as much as possible as far as the children involved. But I will say that, after more than, 8 years now of ongoing suffering and trauma, and a lack of credibility and a lack of accountability regarding the actions that these people engaged in, at a certain point in time, I'm just not worried anymore about what they're going to do to retaliate against me. Because the suffering I've already experienced and the devastation I've already experienced, I really just don't feel like there's much left they can take from me. They've taken everything that mattered. And ultimately, I am a firm believer that one with God is majority. So I'm basically at this point just considering my situation as one where, as long as I'm aligned with my higher power, it doesn't matter the size of the opposition I'm going against, because I'm not going to stay silent in the face of abuse anymore. I think that everyone who has taken advantage of me in this situation and taken advantage of my children in this situation should be named. I would love to know why, in the clerk's offices, they refused to provide me a copy of the docket. They told me there was no record of the financials in my case. How can you enforce any judicial action when you have no financial record pertaining to the case? You clearly don't have a legitimate case running in a situation like that. And I have never in my life heard of any judicial proceeding that didn't maintain a financial record and didn't maintain a docket that could be printed and given to parties upon request. Does that sound to you like a legitimate proceeding? Does it sound to you like anything based upon those proceedings can be relied upon as being factually accurate or legitimate? Just think about it. I've thought about it a lot over the last 8 years. And I know the truth. And I know that what they did was not right and was not legal and was a violation of law and was misappropriation of funds. It's time you own what you did. I've given you every opportunity. I don't know what else you want me to say.